Good Monday evening and welcome to Overtime here on WOTM. I am Gerhard Mathangani, joined by our regular Monday night guest, Mark Everett Kelly. He'll be back with us tomorrow, actually, as well. I have John coming in on Wednesday. Mark, you and I were able to attend Jacksonville State's Football Media Day, and of course, JSU football has kind of been the subject not only of news here in this part of the state, but also nationally. They're trying to play, or they're going through a gauntlet part of their schedule. Had a few games, 4 of them in the fall part of the 2019 season, then played an entire 2020 spring season, and now about to play a normal fall season. And we'll get into the overall schedule in a bit, but first off, what were some of your takeaways as JSU talked about what they're looking forward to as they start camp coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the players handle this type of schedule for football.
Yeah.
That is not normal to ask the body to play that amount of football in that short of time span. And like we were saying, you could play and be like, right now everybody is not as exhausted as they're going to be even at the end of training camp.
Right.
So hearing them say, especially one of the linebackers saying, hey, we didn't want to stop playing at the end of last year. Our season ended a little bit too early. I think you can be excited for the season and then not realize how much it's going to catch up with you after you play 2 or 3 games, after you really realize how much your body's been through in such a short time. It's not normal to play football in the spring and the fall, same year,
right,
and same full schedule, and now being in a tougher conference. I mean, the teams in this conference are pretty good, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it and what it's a testament to really what the human body can endure. And I think these are really prime athletes that are at the top of their physical condition. So if they can't do it, I don't know anybody can.
Exactly. You talked about the injury part of it, and that's actually a really big part of the offense, especially quarterback Zerrick Cooper was injured in the 4th and final game of the 4-game regular season back in the fall. And then their quarterback this past year, Zion Webb, he ended up getting injured as well. So then they're going back to Cooper, who's now recuperated after almost a year of rehabilitation for that torn ACL. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to with him after seeing him for the first time today, kind of knowing a little bit of his background from his days at Clemson and now going back for the final time for his final season at JSU?
He's a guy that averaged over 3,200 yards a year, over 30 touchdown passes in his 2 years in 2018, 2019. He's tied for the most touchdown passes in team history along with Ed Lett. So
yeah,
I think he stands on his own. And the offense is a little different under him than it was under Zion. Under Zion, you had a more balanced offense where you had 190 passing yards per game, 180 rushing yards per game, so it was very balanced. With Cooper, you have a more offensive, passing offense.
Yeah.
275 yards per game he averages throwing the ball. The guy's going to throw touchdowns. So that dynamic is, I think they're a little more explosive with Cooper in a lineup because of his ability to pass the ball.
He certainly has an NFL arm, and Zerrick Cooper spoke with us today about coming back this year. And of course, he was one of the prime with after the fall season to be able to kind of get teams that are interested in him. He's got an NFL arm. Of course, he signed with Clemson coming out of high school, and now he's in a situation where he could have left for his senior season, but he decided to come back. And number 6 talked about why.
Really didn't make sense for me to transfer. I'm here for one more year. I got 5 months left till my whole college career is over. I just looked at that, and there's no place like home here. When I met Coach Gross back in 2018, we had that talk, and I just feel like he's no other coach to have. Even though he's got similarity to Coach Sweeney, I just love Coach. I love Coach Gross's coaching philosophy and everything like that. I just love the atmosphere here, like you said.
So that is Zerrick Cooper, and this is the schedule that Jacksonville State will play coming up this season. I tell you what, Mark, it's like you said, it's not an easy schedule overall. You start off with that big game against UAB in Montgomery, and then to Florida State, 2 teams that they played in the fall of 2019, and then before going into their conference part of the schedule, and then essentially all new opponents there as well, outside of UT Martin, Eastern Kentucky, and UNA, all teams that they've played in the past, whether it's non-conference or inside the conference. All the other ones are part of the ASUN WAC Challenge, which I think should be interesting as well.
Right. Yeah, I think just sitting next to the commissioner at the press conference today, you get to see he's really excited for what this conference can become with those two former conferences combining, and just the teams. I mean, Jack State is really good. They picked third in this conference. You got Sam Houston State, Central Arkansas ahead of them. So talking about really good teams to join an elite conference, I think this is going to set the standard going forward.
100%. Here's head coach John Gross on this upcoming year, the schedule, and getting ready for a very, very tough conference schedule.
I'd say it's the toughest schedule Jacksonville State's ever played. I don't think there's ever been a tougher one, for sure. So I mean, I think that helps you though. I mean, we don't. Me and Greg talk about that a lot. About it's. I'll be honest with you. It's hard fielding a schedule at Jacksonville State. That's no easy task, and I'm glad to see us have, some FBS games back on the schedule, because there was a time there, probably a 2 or 3 year period where you couldn't get anybody to play. So I'm glad to see some of those games, back on our schedule. Our guys look forward to those games. They look forward to the challenge of that. And then the interesting thing of this, makeshift conference for a year, which we get automatic qualifier out of. Boy, you're talking about a really good, strong conference. I mean, it's going to be good with your Texas teams and what we feel like is a base of a ASUN conference that's a strong football league. You've got some traditionally strong, football powerhouses, I think, in FCS that make up this ASUN conference. So you're going to see what I said a while ago, you're going to see a lot of great football, and I think you'll see a lot of great football, in this makeshift conference for this year for sure.
Talked about it earlier about the schedule. 4 games in the fall of 2019, 7 games in the regular season, 2 playoff games as far as in the spring part. That season ended on May 2nd. Now 11 games in the regular season in fall. Do the quick math. It is 24 games in 13 months.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where you start to worry a little bit about their bodies. Maybe not right now. Everybody's fresh right now, but do you have some concerns as they move forward?
Absolutely. I mean, their body's not designed to go through that. I mean, you're not supposed to play that much football over that little of time. And even though their bodies are in prime condition, that amount of contact and that amount of stress and just be staying in that condition and having that kind of contact, people don't realize how much contact you have in an NFL game, especially if you're a lineman, a linebacker. Those guys aren't doing natural things that the body's supposed to do. So that can really set up their body to maybe not heal properly. You need a certain amount of rest in order to perform at your best. So it's going to be interesting to see where their bodies are halfway through the season, toward the end of the season, if they can hold up and still perform like they are the first couple games of the year.
Exactly. Head coach John Gross actually talked about some of that during the spring season. He forecasted what was going to happen here. And so they had basically a heavier day, then a lighter day, and a heavier day and a lighter day. And I think what they've done on the front end going into this year, I think they will do a lot of that here in team camp coming up, starting tomorrow, like kind of heavy day, a light day. I think what that's going to end up doing is it's going to have a general overall really, really good thing on them, because they understand that they just can't go heavy every single day like most teams do this time of year. The players talked about kind of where they are from a physical and mental standpoint as they head into the fall season 2021.
If you was healthy after the season, you should be okay right now. I feel like your mind, your body, and everything right now should be ready to go. It's time to go. You don't have time to look back at the spring anymore. It's a new season. Just time to get focused and lock in on, UAB and get ready for this new upcoming conference we in now. So the body and the mind should be in the right place, and I feel like it is.
I really thought it'd be a struggle with the whole, with the physical and the mental part of it, because you're playing football for a long time if you do that. But, we got done, and we wasn't quite ready to be done yet. So it was never really anything about, like, I'm ready to take a break, I need time off. Like, it was never really any of that, because we wanted to keep playing anyway. So as soon as the last game was over with, our mind focused back to it's time to play again, because we got a lot of stuff that we need to accomplish that we haven't done yet.
Before we close the segment, a quick shout-out to some preseason All-Americans named today. Nicario Harper, who you just saw earlier, on the first team, according to Stats Perform All-American team. Meanwhile, the second team features quarterback Zarek Cooper, defensive end DJ Coleman, and offensive lineman Tillen Grable, who we also saw today at JSU Media Day. Well, coming up next here on Overtime, we'll switch gears over to baseball. Some interesting notes right before the end of the trade deadline and where the Braves stand as we get closer and closer to the home stretch of the season. That and more coming up next.